Okay, good morning. Welcome to our first home ownership, proven path to home ownership workshop for today. I am Erica Washington, and as promised, I made sure that I have a lender right here on point to make sure that anybody that comes to the workshop, should you decide that, hey, I want to give this a try, I think I'm ready. Andrew Wagner, my number one lender, is right here, ready to assist you. Should you want to go through the process to see what grants you can get, to see what loan you might be approved for, see what money might be out there, etc. So like, he's the guy.
Definitely.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming, Andrew.
Appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you.
So what I have for us today is our proven path to home ownership. So just a little bit about me. I've been in the top 5% of team volume. When I was on the team, I was the top agent in my Ellicott City Market Center when I was there. I've been a top producing realtor with awards on HomeSnap. I'm also on what they call a relocation team in Coldwell Banker. I'm a veteran, Army, and I'm a veteran agent, meaning I have that military relocation specialist uh, credential. I also am a pricing strategy specialist, first time homebuyer specialist, real estate negotiation expert. So that just lets you know. Oh, and I'm an accredited buyer representative as well. So I try to do my best to have enough available for people that are looking to purchase a home so they know I don't just show up because I have a real estate license. I show up and I go hard for my clients every day and I stay in training. Okay, so I usually ask, what do you want to learn about the home buying process? But what I'm understanding is this go around, we're just going to share the information about the process. And as you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Even if we can't get the answers right now, I promise you an answer for anything you ask. Okay, so feel free to use the chat. All right. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover fear versus fact about the process, some realities of our market today. There's like 6 steps to home ownership, financing, and then like next steps. Okay. So fear versus fact. So the first fear versus the fact about the home buying process is, I hear this all the time. I cannot afford a home right now, especially in these days where we have the higher rates, et cetera. People are like, I can't afford a home. So how do you know? Have you done the math? You don't know what you can or you can't afford until you actually take the time to go through the process to see, oh, I'm approved for $1 million. Oh, what does that look like a month? Do I want to do that? I'm approved for 100,000. What does that look like? No matter whether it's 100,000 or a million, you still need to know your numbers. Um, Next thing to think about is another fear versus fact. Should I wait until the market gets better? There is never a right time to buy a home. Think about all those people that were upset that they were buying houses at 5% and 4% right back in 2019. And then here comes 2020, 2021, 2022, and the rates go down to like 1.75%. Do you think those people stayed in that 4 or 5% range? Absolutely not. What they did was they refinance. So what you do is you get in while the getting's good, where you can buy a house, and then consider, what do they say? Marry the home,
Date the rate.
date the rate. Exactly. So we want to make sure that that is something that you consider. So there's never a bad time to buy the right home. Then we'll think there's a different down payment options. So if you don't have money for the down payment, we can figure that out. Like, I'm going to closing next week on a house where I actually represented the seller on this. So we accepted an offer where they put down $500 and they're actually getting $500 back at closing. So at the end of the day, zero is what they spent. It happens, y'all. It could be you. Okay. Another fear. I can't afford to buy my dream home. Probably not. You probably can't. It's a dream. That's why they call it a dream. But the best way to get closer to your dream is to buy your first home. All right. Can't afford to buy a home because my credit isn't good. There's always options. We'll figure it out. And like, I promise to be an accountability partner and get us there together. Another fear. I should wait until I'm certain I'm done or I know about my domestic future. You do not have to wait until you're married or partnered or ready to have children to buy a home. Sometimes it seems complicated for people. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm going to tell you you won't be alone. and that I've got lots of experiences. I've done some good, some bad, some ugly. We'll get through it together. I know how to maneuver through things, so we can make that happen. What about what I have a student loan? So if I have a student loan, your debt, it doesn't stop you from buying. It just doesn't. It is a factor, but it does not stop you from buying. Okay. Um, reasons to buy. You've got interest rates, you've got long-term investment, and you have pride of home ownership. Those are reasons why you might want to consider buying a home, right? So Andrew's going to tell us about interest rates and things like that. So what's the current interest rate?
Yeah, interest rates right now are right around 7%.
Look at
So
that. That's much better.
yeah,
7%.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
So let's talk about owning versus renting.
yeah, please.
Okay.
So when I think about the total advantages versus owning and renting. So renting, the first thing is that when you pay rent, all of that money is going right to the landlord. And other than providing really shelter, it's not adding any extra financial um, advantages that you get when you actually are able to own the house. So over the course of 5 years of renting, average rent right now is around $2,500 a month. So you're spending $30,000 a year, or over 5 years, that's $150,000 to the landlord to
Ouch.
pay for rent. And so that money is really kind of gone when we own and we make that same payment towards our mortgage. Not only are you actually paying down your house, but you're also gaining the advantage from the appreciation of the home, which is around 3 to 4% per year on average. So the difference between owning and renting over a 5 year period could amount to like $220,000 swing if you
That's a lot
own
of
that
money
house
thrown
versus
away.
rent that house.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
really crazy.
Listen.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah,
So that's a big, huge change.
yeah.
All right. So why should you hold off buying? So I find this a lot. People are like, oh, I'm about to change a job. Yeah. We worked together with some deals where we found that you might need a couple
Mhm.
paychecks on your new job
Yeah,
before
or
you buy,
maybe
right?
just an offer letter,
Look at
and
that.
yeah, it changing jobs is not a deal killer
Perfect.
95% of the time. Yeah.
So what about your finances? You got your credit score and your down payment to think about too, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and even that, a lot of times I find that people are surprised in how little money can be needed to purchase a home, especially as a first-time home buyer. We have a lot of grant programs available that Eric has a lot of experience with, and that can cover the minimum down payment, which is 3 to 3.5%. So if we get that covered, then there's closing costs, which are usually around 4%. And that can also get covered with some leftover grant money. Sometimes also we can negotiate a seller credit. We can design. We've done that many, many times,
Yeah,
and are able to get folks into homes with little to no money out of pocket.
exactly.
It's really a plan that can get orchestrated, with the right people. And so I don't think not having savings is also a deal killer. I would say having some funds available for things that will cost money when you move, and
Yep.
there's a deposit that's required, an
Mhm.
appraisal, home inspection can be, $500, appraisal $600,
Yep.
a deposit of $2 to $4, $5,000, and then, but a myth I would say is that you need 20% down. That's
Yes.
a That
Yeah,
is,
that's not real anymore,
yeah,
y'all. Not, it's not real.
yeah.
So like that leads to the next one. Like sometimes people want to buy a house and they're like, I don't want to be house poor. I've heard so much about house poor. The way to not be house poor is to own your own home.
Hmm.
That's what you have to do if you want to get out of the house poor situation, because otherwise you're just paying somebody else, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then there's like the short-term ownership piece. So like you might, if you think that you're not going to get any equity or no appreciation, we can show you ways to get around that as well.
Hmm.
Okay. So I have 6 easy steps to home ownership. And the first thing you have to do, especially since the laws have changed in terms of having an agent, um, nationally, no matter what state in these United States you choose, you must sign a buyer's agreement with a licensed agent if you want to step foot in any home. Please know that in the state of Maryland, we are what they call employment at will. So you can sign that agreement and have it useful for just one house and put just that address in there. Or please know you also have the right to send an email that does not require any response and say, hi, I'd like to terminate my agreement. So just because you signed something to get in the door, that does not mean that you are, we'll call it trapped. You're not trapped. You'll have an opportunity to make some changes if you want. Okay. So, but step one, hire your agent. Okay. The second step, you need this guy, you need to secure financing, and he'll walk you through that process as well. We'll set up some appointments next so you can walk through how to get that financing so you'll be able to buy your home. Step three, we want to make sure that you can find your home. So you and I are going to walk through together what you're looking for in a house. I want to know, do you want 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 level, 4 level, single family, whatever it is? I need to know what's important to you. We're going to do a first virtual Zoom together where we walk through some houses so I can understand what you like. I can find out whether or not you need stainless steel kitchen or if you're fine with white appliances. We need to know. So we'll find the house, and then we'll make an offer and negotiate on that house. And you need 2 people to do that. You need myself, but you also need your lender. That's why they're the first 2 steps. Once that's done, we're going to get your offer accepted. We're going to get a home inspection and negotiate any repairs. Notice I didn't skip over get a home inspection. You really should get a home inspection. So I'm going to make sure that we have a conversation as well where we talk through that. And then the last and final step is close on the house. Get your keys and be a homeowner.
Yes.
Get your keys and be a homeowner. Okay, so step one, hire your agent. My job is going to be to educate people about the market, analyze your wants and needs, make sure I steer you to a home that fits your criteria. I work with lots of other professionals in the area. So you don't just have me, you have the expertise of the people that I've known for the time that I've been an agent and the time that I've done other jobs in real estate. So that is over 20 plus years of experience.
Very important.
I'm with the oldest brokerage in the United States, Coldwell Banker. So not only do you have that, if you decide, oh, I don't want to live in Maryland now, I want to live in DC, or I want to live in Virginia, or I'm moving to California or Texas, you still call me. Because guess what? I have agents that I work with on a regular basis. I am on the relocation team for Maryland, and I can make sure that wherever you decide you want to buy, we can find an agent that fits your needs. Okay? So I can negotiate on your behalf and I can solve any problems that arise. All right. Like I said, we talked about the buyer representation agreement. So you already know that that's something you have to have signed in order to buy, in order to look at a home. And when do you hire your agent? We just talked about that a little bit. When we start working together, that agreement must be signed prior to us walking into any home. So like we can have conversations about what's important to you, but what I can't do is I can't give you any information about homes, except for what the seller wants you to know, which would be like the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, what's in the disclosures. But nothing aside from that can occur until we actually have an agreement. Okay. All right. Then we have to secure our financing.
Mhm.
So you do a formal application with the lender. You get a formal commitment from the lender. This lender will let you know how much you can borrow. And when you do that, it makes your offer stronger, especially when you're in multiple buyer situations. And that does happen because if you find that great house, there's like 5 other people are like, oh yeah, it's a great house. I want it too. So I want to make sure we're able to do the things that get you what you need. Okay. Okay. Um, Pre-qualifications. Oops, I skipped a page. Um, it's not a formal process. Like how long would you say it takes for people to go through the lending process?
Yeah, we can pre-approve people in a day, one day,
And how long do you
um,
think it'll take them to fill out the application?
20 minutes.
Y'all, it's like the whole Geico thing where like give them 15 minutes. They just want 5 more, get it done, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to buy a house without a pre-qualification from a lender. And it's interesting. Nowadays, some agents won't allow you to come in and see the house if you don't have a pre-qualification. So I may be like, oh, we can't even see that house. You don't have a pre-qual. And also you want to know, hey, when you walk into that house worth 250,000, what's it going to cost you? You want to be able to know your numbers. So that's the other reason why you get that pre-qualification done. All right. Choose a lender. So when you ask about a lender, I always give 3 referrals, but I always let you know who my favorite is because I think it's important that you know. Yeah, I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but that they say that as parents too, and it still comes up. My favorite. So he'll set up an interview and you make sure you choose the lender that you are most comfortable with. And we'll prepare the loan application. You'll get it approved, or it'll let you know what you need to work on if for some reason you're not approved. And this way they can determine what you're going to pay and get you to select the correct loan option. Okay. We're going to create a budget to identify expenses, determine how comfortable you are with your spending, and make some simple changes if need be. Like for instance, I have a buyer that's like, you know what? I really don't want to spend more than $2,500 a month on my mortgage. I'm paying 23 in rent, and I'm willing to go a little higher since it's mine. And I said, okay, let's go back to the lender, find out what that looks like. So we ran the numbers, we looked at the average taxes in the area that is of consideration for her, and we made some changes. We tweaked things and we tweaked where and how she's looking so she can make sure she keeps her numbers like she wants.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't understand mortgages.
Yeah, right. So
Stay in my lane.
we're talking mortgages now. So that's obviously the mortgage is what you are taking out to actually finance the house that you're buying, and that's what the mortgage is, and so what we need to look at when we're talking about how to structure that mortgage is first, what type of loan are we going to do? And most loans we're either doing an FHA or a conventional loan, and your lender will explain to you which one works best for your situation. If you're a veteran, there's also VA loans available with no down payments, but generally FHA, conventional, VA, if you are a veteran, are the 3 different types of loans, and we want to identify which product we're going to do or which program, because different programs have different requirements and maybe different criteria that we need to think about when going out and looking at homes, like condos, and have different requirements for conventional financing than FHA financing.
Yep.
So we want to know what type of loan we're doing. And then we want to also understand what our down payment is. We talked a little bit about cash to close, our, how much cash are we planning on putting down? Because that does help with your monthly payment. When we talk about affordability or,
Yep.
comfort zone, some of that big piece of that is what is the down payment, and then also with that is interest rate. So we want to know what interest rate that you're going to have on that loan, and that happens at pre-approval. So
Yes.
we're going to say your interest rate is 6.5%, and that way, there's a lot of great mortgage calculators that I have available that Erica can use as well, and that helps kind of calculate what the payments will look like based on your interest rate and down payment and loan term. So most mortgages are 30-year loans. So that's how long you're going to be paying that back, which sounds like forever because
Yeah, it does.
it's a long, long time. So I think, understanding that your mortgage though doesn't have to be always 30 years. You can pay a little bit extra and then it speeds it up. The payment also can get adjusted with perhaps in a couple of years when you're in the house, we can get the mortgage insurance removed or refinance the loan. So while the average loan is 30 years, or most actual mortgages only last about 5 to 6 years because you might sell the house or refinance the house. So
Yeah.
the odds of you actually carrying that loan for 30 years are
Right. It's not the
pretty,
same as in some places where I had a client and she had a house and she was very worried because she was like, I haven't finished paying this mortgage. How am I going to buy another house? She had the conception that it was her responsibility to personally pay that other mortgage in full
Mhm.
before she could buy another house.
Yeah.
So like I was very happy to share with her, like, that's a myth.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the one that pays it off. Somebody else can, so you can buy another house. So like,
Exactly.
that if you're in that particular situation, now you know that you don't have to be the actual person that pay that mortgage off. It gets paid off on your behalf by the person that wants the home while you're looking for another one. So that's
Yep.
just something good to know.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, what else do we have here under understanding mortgages? Okay.
The payment. Yeah. So monthly payment. You know, we talked about kind of your rent payment, and that's a pretty standard number that your landlord's going to give you. It's written into your lease agreement, and that's your rent payment. Mortgage payment is a little bit different in that it's made up of I call it PITI, which and principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So the principal and interest is what the payment is on the loan itself. So on a $300,000 loan at 7% interest, the principal and interest portion is about $2,500. All right. But the payment isn't just that. We also escrow for the property taxes and the home insurance, and that gets added into the monthly payment with the principal and interest. So every month when you're making a payment, it's the principal and interest for the actual loan, but then also some of it is escrow for taxes and insurance. So when the property tax bill comes out every year, you're not the one paying that directly to the county.
Right. Oh my gosh. So
it's-
when they see that bill for like $7,000 to $10,000,
Yeah.
you're like, what? And I always get these calls every year, like, Erica, who's paying this? Oh my gosh. And I get to happily tell them, hey, you are, but you have already prepaid by way of the insurance and tax payments you're making on a monthly basis. So that
Right.
TI part of the PITI, yeah, you're going to get a bill and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, but it's already covered because you pre-planned by way of making it part of your mortgage payment.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's important to know, what those numbers are and, what is all comprised in that payment. And so, because sometimes it's like people, I feel like the payment is 3,500. I'm only paying, 2,500 in rent, but some of that is for your property taxes and home insurance. So
Yes, so
you're
you gotta,
protected and
but you can look at those numbers and keep things low by way
Yeah.
of the insurance that you choose.
yeah,
And you can look at the taxes by way of when you choose the house you're going to buy. So like there's different tax levels in different counties. So
Mhm.
you have to make a decision about, again, when we're looking at affordability, it's that what is most important to you. So you might decide that the tax benefits of living in one county might be more beneficial than another. So that's something that we'll talk through at that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So absolutely. And
Oh, that's the same thing. So we do have to maintain the pre-approval. I have this thing that I talk about called hold your breath. So after you get your pre-approval, that does not, you're going to get a whole bunch of calls from a whole bunch of people creditors, et cetera, saying, hey, try and qualify with me. Hey, you can get a car now. Hey, you should get this other credit card, because they get an alert that, hey, you had a credit pull. But you really, you have to hold your breath from the time you get your pre-approval to the time you settle on your house. Don't buy a car, open a new credit card line. Don't open on your current credit card line, making your debt to equity higher than it should be. Don't change a job in the middle of it, please, because they actually check to see whether or not you work where you say you work, and protect your down payment. Like, I had an individual, we were almost there, and they had about $9,000 in a shared account, and it was their money, but the person they shared the account with made a decision that there was something more important for them, and they took out about 7,000 of it. So there's the down payment. So I can help you take steps to protect your down payment. So we'll talk through that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 3, finding your home. What we'll do to find your house is we're going to define what you're looking for. We're going to teach you about the market, and then we're going to update your search to make sure that what you're looking for makes sense. So I always tell my clients, send me everything you see from everywhere. I don't care if it's from another agent. I don't care if it's from another website. That's not what I care about. What I care about is what's important to you. And I want to make sure that, the search that I have for you is sufficient, does meet your qualifications, even though you might be looking at some other things too. Okay, so I always ask, who's looked at houses, but this isn't a virtual environment. So, when we meet in person or, through Zoom, we'll talk through that. So the things that people look for. Most people are like, oh, I want an open concept. I like to have lots of space, and I want this to be close to my job or close to this school for my children. And I like these kind of like hardwood floors and maybe luxury vinyl tiles. And like, I don't want any carpet, and the door needs to be yellow. Those are things you guys talk about. I look at how this house compares in terms of the value of the other homes in the area to make sure you're not buying the most expensive house in the neighborhood. You don't want that. I also look at the potential resale value. I like to buy a house that you can sell again. Like, you got to be able to sell it again so you can move on and actually get closer to that dream home. And then I look at kind of the big ticket items like the roof, the HVAC, maintenance, any structural concerns. So like, that's where my head is while you're looking at all the aesthetics that make you happy. All right. So condo or townhome. So while you have a lower cost per square foot, there's no yard maintenance, and you get some amenities, and you're part of a bigger community. You also have like shared ownership. The space inside of the building is also shared. Like, that's not just your hallway. There's homeowner fees and shared maintenance costs. So those fees can go up when you have a condo association as well. They can go up in the HOA too. And then it's managed by a board of directors, and it's governed by the rules around pets and vehicles and noise. Those cons are sometimes pros for some people. So like, you might look at this and be like, wait, that's what I want. So like, it's just something to consider, the pros and cons. Okay. How about new construction? Who wants new construction, right?
I do.
Right? The house no one has ever lived in before. Yeah. So the pros for that, it's new. There's warranties. You can pick your lot and your design. You lock in your price, and there's usually some really good deals. So there's some cons with that as well. You got to keep in mind, anything you add adds to the price. Who is in the neighborhood? It's already uncertain. You don't know who else is going to buy there. You don't know what's in the outlying area sometimes. There's might not even be any new amenities. And there's also not a firm closing date, because you can't close on the house until they're finished building. Like, for instance, you may decide to do a new construction home, and they tell you, hey, this is where we're in January. So they may tell you, we're going to break ground in February. Ground's still frozen in February. They don't have their permits yet. The county hasn't released a requirement for them to start. That doesn't happen because there's a backup until April. So guess what? They start in April, and then that 4 to 6 month period doesn't begin until April. So you're waiting that long. That's okay, as long as you know. But, some people need a firm date of when they're going to move, and that just won't work for them. Okay. Making an offer and negotiating. We're going to talk through price. We're going to talk through the terms of the offer, and we're going to talk about something called contingencies. Now, I always get that question. What do you mean? What is a contingency? The price is what you agree to. The terms are are you going to do inspections? Yes. Are you going to, do you need financing unless you're using cash and it's cash as you can prove? Yes. Are you going to waive the appraisal? Usually no, but there's sometimes opportunities where they sold enough homes and then there's a yes. But then there's contingencies like your financing contingency. What comes up on that inspection, you want the ability to negotiate. You want to ensure that you do things like you put down your earnest money deposit. That's an initial at least 1% that you put down that is part of your closing costs that says, hey, seller, I am so serious about buying this house. It is one of the most important things you do. If you don't give that earnest money deposit or EMD, then you are not the buyer. They can back out of that contract and they can sue you for that money that you didn't pay. So it's in your best interest to make sure that we know your contingencies and that you work hard to be sure that we meet them. I work hard right along with you. You will never be alone, and I will always remind you of the contingencies and work to be your accountability partner to get it done. Okay, inspections and repairs. We're on step 5. That's great. So there's an option period. After they say they love our offer, yes, you are the one that can buy this house, we have what they call an option period. That's the time where we walk through the house, make sure you love it, look at the things that are good or bad about the house, have the inspector with us so they can make sure everything is structurally, environmentally, electric, plumbing, everything looks good for the house. They test the HVAC, the appliances, whatever inspections that you decide on that inspection form, that's what we're going to do. Now, to keep in mind, every inspection you choose is an inspection that costs you. It's not free. I have about 6 different inspectors that I work with. I do have my favorites, and we'll talk through that as well. Okay. FHA. If you go FHA, there's some other things that there's a FHA inspection checklist where these are things that the appraiser usually looks for. So they're going to make sure that you actually have the systems that are there. They're going to ask whether or not you had an inspection to see if those systems are functioning properly, unless they see something that says this home is as is, and then they won't be looking at those things, the systems that is. They're going to check for major safety hazards, like nothing minor, but they see exposed wiring, uncovered boxes, missing handrails where you have 3 steps or more. They're going to call that out. And they're going to make sure the property is appropriately accessible. So if there's an emergency, hey, can the AMBO get in? Can they get to you? So they're going to look for all those things. This is just me. I always put this up here. They want you to know you really should get a home inspected. While there are opportunities where you don't, you really should. All right, so don't sweat the small stuff. Look at this picture. This is a photo of, what is this? It's paint that's peeling. And it looks like there's a hole in the house where you can see some pipes. So we've got maybe some cracked foundation. Maybe the crack is inside the house or the windows. Maybe this is from some water stains. It could be from worn shingles. It could be anything. So what we have to do is make sure that we know whether this is one of those big things or one of those little things. And the way we do that is by asking the inspector. It is my responsibility to be sure that I align you with a certified inspector that gives you an independent opinion. You can ask me questions, but it's the inspector's opinion that matters in this. So I always make sure that I find somebody that gets on my nerves a bit because they go above and beyond. And I'm like, okay, if they get on my nerves a bit, then I know they're going to do a great job for you. And that's really what I want. I want someone that's going to do a great job for you. And then, step 6, let's close and be a homeowner. You'll get your keys. You'll pay your final closing cost or get money back because you gave too much earnest money deposit. All those good things can happen. We'll do a final walkthrough. It's going to be grand. So, got to make sure to get there, though, that you know that you have budgeted for what might happen. You got to keep yourself mortgage worthy. So important.
Mm.
So, you know, the closing costs might be about 2 to 3, and that inflation has happened. So it's more like 3 to 4% of the loan amount now because taxes have gone up and things. That includes all the lender, title fees, etc. Then your earnest money, that was at 1 to 2% of the purchase price. Inspections that cost about $400 to $1,000, depending on what you choose to do. That survey that you get, that's the title survey, that's going to cost, and the appraisal combined, that will cost you between 400 to 200, depending on where you're purchasing. And then there's some miscellaneous fees that you might get some additional inspections. You might need an extension because you didn't hold your breath. So we have to factor that in. And then they'll take out the first year of the homeowner's insurance, and they'll take some reserves for any improvements that have to happen because the seller didn't get them done in time. Once we've reviewed and we ensure we have covered all of those steps, we're going to do a final walkthrough of the home just to re-inspect it, just to make sure. And I'll be honest, we at times, if we have a certified contractor that's done the work, and you have an opportunity to choose whether or not you want to pay for the inspectors to come back out, or if you want to place reliance on the certified contractors that were used, because I will verify that they are certified and licensed in the state of Maryland for you before we close. All right. So it's time to close. You're going to bring any funds, you're going to bring evidence of insurance, and you're going to bring an ID. While you're there, you're going to get your settlement statement, a transfer of the clean title right there on the spot. And then right on the spot, you will get the keys to your new home right then and there. So what are you going to do next? So you bought your house. You're going to protect that investment. I'm going to make sure that you know how to maintain the house, how to keep an eye on things, what kind of receipts you need to keep for your repairs, and what kind of home warranties to consider. So like once you buy a house, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? I don't just go away. I stay here and I work hard for you every day. Okay? So hopefully after this conversation, you might make a decision that you would like to get a little more acquainted. So let's get together and let's talk about like setting expectations. What do you want to be sure that I do for you? Okay. And then with that same expectation, what do I need from you so I can make sure that I can service you appropriately? I want to learn about your needs and build up a rapport and show you and build a profile for you. We're going to talk about your wish list and the neighborhoods you like, and then we're going to map your move. I'm also going to recommend you lenders that fit your needs. Okay. And I usually take appointments between Tuesday and Friday. I have these specific times that I like, but if this doesn't meet your needs, let me know. We'll figure out what does. So that's Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 9, 12 to 1, and then I do a 7 to 8 as well. Some people just cannot do during the day. All right.